I brought props. These are support small grains buttons. I put some on a registration table, but if they're out, get a hold of me. I can give it. Okay, well, I came to Cornell in 1978, so I'm an old timer now. But I did want to say a couple of things before I start my talk. One is that Ellen, Mallory, Heather Darby, and some colleagues in Wisconsin and Illinois just put together a very, very interesting and exciting proposal to the USDA Organic Research and Extension Initiative grant agency, and if this is funded, it'll be a great shot in the arm for Northeast grains. I also wanted to mention that we've been doing research down in the Hudson Valley with the Hudson Valley Farm Hub for about 6 or 7 years now, and their goal is to revitalize grain production in the Hudson Valley. It's funded by the New World Foundation Local Economies Project, and we are planting both spring and winter grains down there. We started on Ken Migliorelli's farm back in, I think it was 2011, was it, Ken? Something like that. That has provided local farmers with a lot of information about which grains are productive in that region, and it's given organic vegetable farmers an opportunity to rotate with a crop to break up those disease and insect and weed cycles that are a problem when you grow continuous vegetables. Well, I wanted to tell you a little bit about my research program at Cornell before I started into some information about the grains. I've been working on many different varieties of small grains for quite a few years. I have 3 technicians, 2 postdocs, and 5 graduate students, so it's a pretty good sized group. I've released 14 varieties of winter wheat, 4 varieties of spring oats, winter barley variety, and we are about to release our first spring malting barley variety this spring. I specialize in breeding methods. We do statewide testing for oats, winter wheat, winter barley, winter rye, and some specialty grains like emerine, corn, and spelt. And of course, the most important traits in this region are going to be grain yield, fusarium head blight, and pre-harvest sprouting. I'm going to focus more on my barley work today. We started what we call the Born, Bred, and Brewed in New York barley project back in 2013, and that's led by my graduate student, Dan Sweeney, my collaborator and colleague, great colleague, Gary Bergstrom, who's here in the audience. And we started this project, a breeding project with support from New York State. And the goal here was to develop a malting barley variety that was adapted to Northeast growing conditions. It's very risky to grow small grains in the Northeast because of our wet, humid climate, propensity for diseases, pre-harvest sprouting. But with support from my barley colleagues in Oregon and Minnesota, we started a malting barley breeding program, and we wanted to do this as quickly as we possibly could, because if you know the New York State Legislature, your funding is year to year, if possible. But we've been very fortunate now to have good funding from New York State for, what is it, Gary, 4 or 5 years now. So in 2016, we made our first malting barley crosses. That next year we took some of our selections from those crosses into the field. In 2018, we had our 100 best lines out of 1,400 that we started with. And then in 2019, we tested 60 lines in 5 locations. We did this with the help of a New Zealand seed increase every winter, off season. And this spring, we'll be planting our first foundation seed increase of our first spring malting barley variety. That's about a third to a half the time it would normally take to breed a barley variety. Our traits, of course, are fusarium head blight, spot blotch, pre-harvest sprouting, and we have to have good malting quality, as Aaron McLeod will tell you every day. Aaron makes no bones about quality. So we have to have malting quality or you don't have malting barley. We test something like 2,000 to 3,000 winter grains and another 2,000 spring grains in our fusarium head blight nursery every year. This is what it looks like, and we get support from Gary Bergstrom's lab to produce the inoculum that we spray on these plots. So we had a good year in 2019. We tested those 60 barley lines in 5 locations. Our checks were AAC Synergy, KWS Tinka, Pinnacle, and Kraft. And we planted on time in mid-April. We had one day of rain before harvest in Ithaca, so that gave us good differential for RVA, or falling number, as some of you may know it by. We sent malting samples from the best 15 of those varieties to Aaron at Hartwick, and also to the USDA cereal research unit in Madison, Wisconsin. 7 of the best lines were sent to New Zealand. You can't really read this, but those green highlighted lines are the best 7 out of the 15, and we already have malt quality back from Aaron, so we have a pretty good sense now of which of those 15 are the best for malt quality. We're very excited. This is about as fast as you can develop a barley variety, and it's looking pretty good for our foundation seed increase this spring. I did want to mention naked barley. Naked barley is a new crop. We're working with June Russell at Green Market, who's also a collaborator on this OREI project. And also June is a collaborator on our naked barley project. This is a collaboration with Oregon State University. Pat Hayes is a breeder there. I'm sorry, this is, before I get into that, we're working on mainly looking at the relationship between pre-harvest sprouting, grain dormancy, water sensitivity, and malting quality, and of course we're working with Aaron on that. And we want to be able to combine pre-harvest sprouting resistance with good malting quality. So the Naked Barley project is ongoing, and we're put in a new, we worked with Pat Hayes to put in a renewal on that project. Okay, so what kinds of information come out of my statewide trials? Some of you may remember last fall's weather. It was terrible. We were very lucky to get any winter grains planted in the fall of 2018. Some of our trials went in very late, and we lost more than half of our winter barley trials because of that. You have to plant winter barley on time, or it won't survive. Our spring grains, on the other hand, were pretty much planted on time. Gee, I wish you could see this, but I'll read it to you. This is our winter malting barley agronomic trial summary. KWS Scala continues to be the most widely grown variety with winter survival, with excellent winter survival and pre-harvest sprouting resistance. SYTP is no longer available in this region. I know Francis said that he got some out of North Carolina, but we keep it in as a check. And never has issues with lodging, dawn, and pre-harvest sprouting, but it's still popular with some of the malt houses. Flavia is a promising new variety, and seed is available. This DH13910 is a new variety from Oregon State University, and it's a novel facultative type. That means it can be planted either in the spring or the winter. It has good resistance to pre-harvest sprouting and scald. 2 newcomers from Lima Grain are LCS Calypso and Violetta. Calypso has excellent grain yield, winter survival, and moderate pre-harvest sprouting resistance. Violetta has good lodging and pre-harvest sprouting resistance, but lower winter survival. This is a winter malting barley quality summary. KWS Scala has above average kernel plumpness and overall good quality. SYTP has the lowest beta-glucan, Endeavor has one of the highest beta-glucans readings pretty consistently. These are 2-year summaries, but we've got multiple year summaries on these. Flavia has high beta-glucan and low and below spec free amino nitrogen. And based on only 1 year of data, the DH13910 and LCS Violeta have pretty high beta-glucan. On the spring side, there is still production of Quest 6-row barley, and Aaron will tell you that's a pretty good 6-row barley. You can make good beer out of that. It has good lodging and sprouting resistance and low DON. KWS Tinka has the lowest DON over these 2 years. Indy Genesis has the best test weight and good lodging resistance. AAC Synergy and Newdale are famous for their susceptibility to sprouting. AAC Synergy has the highest DON. And then we have some newcomers, KWS Jesse, KWS Chrissy, and LCS Opera. They all have higher yield, but Chrissy has high Fusarium head blight index. LCS Opera has low test weight and is susceptible to lodging and spot blotch. This DH13910 is also in our spring trials, but it actually does yields better when it's fall planted, and it has good sprouting resistance. On the quality side, KWS Tinka has tends to have low diastatic power and high fan. Indy Genesis has good kernel plumpness, but a little bit low on diastatic power and high beta-glucan. AAC Synergy has the lowest beta-glucan, and Newdale has the highest diastatic power. So I have a number of funding sources. Brewers Association has been very generous, and it wouldn't be possible without New York State Ag and Markets support. We've also had some support from American Malting Barley Association, USDA, and the Center for Technology Licensing at Cornell. So I also want to thank my students. This is a picture of my students and postdoc. They're enjoying some of our products. Thanks a lot for your attention. I'll be glad to answer questions.